In Honduras, all is set for Sunday, November 30th general elections. Government authorities guarantee a peaceful and transparent electoral day. Peru's interim president Jose Herry confirmed that the state of emergency in the city of Tacna on the border with Chile will come into effect at midnight local time on November 29th. And the United Nations Committee Against Torture concluded Israel's prolonged deprivation of food and humanitarian aid and bombing of Gaza constitute mass mistreatment that can be considered torture. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin the news. On November 30th, Honduras goes to the polls in a new election to choose the next president, 128 members of the National Congress, 298 mayors, and other local authorities in the country.
The
scenario for this election was previously shaped by the primary and internal elections held on March 9th. The country's main political forces used these internal elections to select their official candidates, as only those candidates elected in this process will be legally eligible to compete. For this crucial day, the National Electoral Council has registered approximately 6.5 million citizens eligible to vote. This electoral register includes both voters residing in Honduras and members of the Honduran diaspora abroad, who will also be entitled to participate. Thousands of polling stations will be distributed nationwide, and it's essential that each voter knows the number of their polling station and the center where they are to vote. This information can be found on the official website for the CNS information platforms. Voters will receive several ballots to cast their votes simultaneously, as the process is a multiple election. The first is the ballot to elect the president and vice presidents. The additional ballots are for members of the National Congress, where marked votes or selective votes may be cast, and finally for the election of municipal corporations, that is, mayors and councillors. The new government will face urgent challenges, from security to the national economy. Beyond the candidates and parties, the election will define the nation's course for the next 4 years.
Let's stay on topic and go deeper in the analysis of Honduras' upcoming general elections. We welcome analyst and human rights specialist David Lopez. Welcome, David, to From the South.
Thank you. Thank you very much today from Geneva.
It's a pleasure to have you as always. David, we are less than 24 hours away from the election day. We can say that lots has happened during the campaign period, especially framed on the denunciation of far-right opposition sectors' attempts to hijack the voting transmission system. So what is the atmosphere right now in Honduras as the election day closes?
So right now, something at the international level, it's very worried because some behavior from Washington are very delicate. So 48 hours before the elections, have declarations from President Trump who mentioned that he pardoned to Juan Orlando Hernandez and put him on freedom after to be condemned 45 years for narcotics, weapon traffics, etc. This is a very, very delicate behavior. Overall, when he mentioned that if his candidate wins, so we understand that the candidate of the United States right now is Nasri Asfura. If he wins, it will be money for Honduras. But if he don't win, so Honduras will not have money from the United States. This is a very, very delicate violation of the UN Charter, Article 2.1 and Article 2.7, who guaranteed the non-intromission of the domestic policies of other countries, and it violates as well the right of the self-determination inscribed under Article 1 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, recognized as well by the United States.
As we were saying, the U.S. interference in the election also comes in a context, as we have been discussing for a couple of months now, of the military deployment in the Caribbean, trying to coerce in a way also nations in Latin America, and especially against Venezuela. So is there a relation? Do you think there's a coincidence there, a relation in these actions?
Yes, I think that this is a geopolitical context we are living right now in Honduras because, of course, for the United States, it's not interesting that a country who traditionally was every time dominated by the White House today has again the possibility to lose one part of the Central American territory, maybe to control all the Caribbean, to have the possibility to manage much more the military conditions to attack Venezuela. We have to understand, as I mentioned you before, that this is incredible that on the public positions, President Trump mentioned that he will intervene Venezuela because he have narco traffickers who export cocaine to the United States, and they have to fight against them and as well against the Colombian government. And he mentioned that he will intervene military Venezuela and maybe Colombia if that continue. But at the same time, he pardoned and put in freedom a former president who was condemned by the U.S. authorities for 45 years because narcotics and because weapon traffic between the United States and Honduras. So this is a contradiction, and we see there that it have not in Honduras the interest to respond and to respect the international law and the domestic laws of Honduras, but to respond in a geopolitical context who will give the opportunity to the United States to attack maybe much more easy or make in any case much more military pressures over Venezuela and maybe Colombia and other countries of the region.
We have seen that President Donald Trump has made conditional the delivery of international aid and any kind of support to Honduras on the option that the candidate that he wants, the far-right candidate, wins the election day. What will be the humanitarian impact for the Honduran people, and what will be the impacts of the impositions of these kinds of policies, of strategies throughout the region?
Yeah, but so this is very delicate because we have to remember that Latin America is a peace region who was as well defended on a biggest geopolitical context and point of view. We have to remember that Moscow talk on public to protect and respect this level of peace we have in Latin America, as well China and as well many other countries, as well the European Union. They mentioned that it's very dangerous to have some behaviors like the United States in Latin America, because we can conduct the country and the Latin American people to a war. And this behavior of the United States make that they don't care about the Latin American people, and if they have to bring these people in a war who respond only to the interests of the capital of the United States, not the interests of the US people, but only to the interests of the White House and the people who support the White House policies behind. They don't care if the people have to go in a war. This is very complicated, and it attends and violates the basic international rules ratified as well by the United States, by all the Latin American countries. And it's for this reason that we need to have an eye today over the elections in Honduras. I think that the people in general, in the context we have right now, the Rexy Moncada, the candidate of the officialist government, has the great possibilities to win the election and continue this policy where the poverty of the reduction of the poverty was a very strong point of this country, of this actual government, and it will continue with her. But if it not continue because of the pressure of the United States, we can have a very dark and worried situation on the region.
As we were saying, let's do a little bit of guesswork in a way. Let's pretend it's Monday, Honduras has a new elected government. What development priorities should the next government focus on, and what key challenges will it face coming from taking into context all the foreign interventionist actions and all the situation right now in the region?
So independently of the candidate who will win, it's important to take in consideration the first step, the interest of the Honduran people. Actually, the actual government has made a very good policies to respond to the poverty reduction, to the public health, and many other policies who are needed not only in Honduras but in the majorities of the Latin American countries. And this is maybe the first point that has to make the next president, independently who will win. And the second one is to ask to the United States, all the countries, to respect the international law. We see what happened if we don't respect the international law. You can look what happened in Palestine. You can see what happened right now with the possibilities of the United States to invade Venezuela. You can see what happened as well in Africa and the geopolitical situation in the Sahel. This is enough. I think that the next president who will arrive to the power on the next government has to require the respect of the international law and the respect of the self-determination of Honduras and all the region who actually with this behavior it's put on the middle of a big dangerosity of a war.
Thank you very much, David Lopez, for your time hearing from the South, for these inputs as we head for the elections in Honduras on Sunday, November 30th.
Thank you to you, and all my best wishes to the Honduran people. The decision they will take, it will be not only a decision for Honduras, but for all Latin America. So all my support to the wishes of the Honduran people and Latin American people as well.
Thank you for being with us. Well, we were speaking with analyst and human rights specialist David Lopez, talking a bit and analyzing the current situation as Hondurans are ready to head on Sunday to the polls to elect the next president, the next government for their Honduran people. Let's now take our first break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Peru's interim president Jose Herri confirmed that the state of emergency in the city of Tacna on the border with Chile will come into effect at midnight local time on November 20 and 29th, with the aim of strengthening security in the face of the arrival of irregular migrants. The measure would allow the armed forces to intervene in border surveillance and control tasks. The announcement follows a Friday border crossing blockade by dozens of migrants who blocked traffic on the Pan American Highway South. The migrants were denied entry to Peru for lacking legal documents. Protesters claim they are fleeing Chile because right-wing candidate Jose Antonio Cas might win the presidential runoff on December 14th. Cas has promised a policy of mass expulsion of irregular migrants. And in Venezuela on Friday, 136 citizens arrived in Caracas in a new back to the homeland planned flight. On Flight 93 of the humanitarian mission, 24 women, 104 men, and 9 children returned to the country after landing at Simón Bolívar International Airport. They underwent the standard protocol of medical security and identification checks, as well as criminal background checks. The arrival of this new group is part of the national government's initiative, which continues to assist fellow citizens who without resources seek to return to Venezuela free of charge and safely. And a few days before World AIDS Day on December 1st, the Pan American Health Organization and UNICEF stated that if current levels remain unchanged, there will be 1.9 million new infections among children and 990,000 deaths from the disease by 2040. The Organization and UNICEF warned that the world could lose decades of progress in the fight against HIV if urgent measures aren't taken to protect vulnerable populations, especially children and adolescents in Latin America and the Caribbean. Sub-Saharan Africa has the most people with the disease, but Latin America and the Caribbean face critical challenges, especially in diagnosing and preventing it among teenagers. Bajo says 1 in 3 diagnoses in the region is made too late when the immune system is already severely compromised. The United Nations Committee Against Torture concluded Israel's prolonged deprivation of food and humanitarian aid and bombing of Gaza constitute mass mistreatment that can be considered torture. The body published a report this Friday after analyzing Israel's compliance with the Convention Against Torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, which it ratified in 1991. The committee noted that Israel has de facto implemented an organized and widespread policy of torture and ill treatment against detained Palestinians, which has intensified since October 2023. It also identified multiple forms of collective punishment against the civilian population in the occupied Palestinian territories. Pope Leo XIV urged the constructions of bridges to achieve world peace during a public mass in Turkey. From Istanbul, our correspondent Yunus Soner has the details.
Good evening from Istanbul, Turkey, where the Pope Leo XIV has just concluded his mass prayer and thus his final public activity here in the city in front of 4,000 believers and priests of all religions. He said that it is time to build bridges. He gave the example of the 3 bridges over the Bosporus, the strait that separates here Europe and Asia in the city of Istanbul, and he called to build 3 kinds of bridges as well. First bridge is among the Catholic churches of Latin, Syriac and Armenian and other branches to build bridges within the Catholic Church. The second bridge was he called for was to build a bridge between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, and this was a topic that he actively displayed also during the day. And the third bridge he called to build, it was the bridge between different religions, between different churches, between Christianity and Islam and other religions as well. And his today's program was according to this proposal. In the morning, Leo XIV has visited the Sultan Ahmed Mosque, which is one of the most important mosques here in the city. It is one of the biggest and oldest mosques. So he displayed there the message of the importance of interreligious dialogue and understanding. Then he continued to visit the Syriac Orthodox Church, Mor Efrem, and later on he gathered together with Bartholomew I, who is the Patriarch of the Constantinople Church of Orthodox belief and a symbol for the Orthodox world in general. With Bartholomew, Leo XIV made a public statement, public prayer, and also a public declaration where they called both to deepen the dialogue between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, to continue the commission of the mixed commission on theological affairs, and to deepen cooperation and getting closer both churches. They also recalled the Nicaean Creed. Remembered that yesterday was the ceremony in ancient Nicaea, today's Iznik, where 1,700 years ago more than 200 bishops had gathered to take important decisions for Christian theology. So this has been a day of building bridges, of displaying to build bridges, and both Leo XIV and Bartholomew I emphasized in their declaration also that this building of bridges and getting closer and together believers of different religions is of utmost importance in a world with that much war and conflict. They called to stop all violence that is being pursued in the name of any religion, and they called all politicians and civilian leaders to work for peace, which also they described as the path to God. So this was a day where Pope Leo's activities here in Istanbul, Turkey, were described, were heading towards building bridges among churches, among religions, and on the topic, the main aspect of achieving global peace. He will tomorrow have some meetings here in Istanbul still, and in the afternoon he will continue his travel to Beirut, the capital city of Lebanon.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.